Cleats dig into fresh turf. Helmets clash. Bodies collide with thunderous impact. Coach Reeves blows his whistle, silencing the chaos. Sweat-drenched players gather around him, panting. Tall, muscular, and radiating confidence, Zack Miller stands, apart from the huddle. A diamond earring catches the sunlight as he removes his helmet. Several yards away, a lean figure in pristine practice gear approaches the field. This is Nate Walker. His movements are deliberate, economical. He scans the field with quiet intensity. Coach Reeves checks his clipboard. Practice resumes. The offensive line runs through blocking drills. Defense works on pursuit angles. Zack catches a slant route, jukes a defender, then high steps into the end zone, showboating. Nate sits on a bench, lacing up his cleats. Zack approaches, towering over him. Several players drift closer, sensing entertainment. Nate stands, his face betraying nothing. Heans his hand. Zack ignores the gesture, circling Nate like a predator. Nate's eyes follow him, unblinking. Coach Reeves blows his whistle. Players scatter to their positions for 7-on-7 drills. Nate lines up at running back. The ball is snapped. Nate slips into the flat, catches a pass, and turns upfield. Zack charges in for the tackle, smirking. A guaranteed highlight. In a motion too smooth to be accidental, Nate shifts his weight. A subtle dip of his shoulder, a precise pivot of his hips. Zack lunges into empty air. Crashes hard. The field goes quiet. Nate continues his route, never breaking. Stride. Zack scrambles to his feet, brushing grass from his uniform. His embarrassment quickly hardens to anger. A veteran linebacker helps Zack up. Coach Reeves makes notes on his clipboard, his expression unreadable. Zack stares at Nate, jaw clenched. The quiet transfer student has become a problem that needs solving. Nate sets his helmet back on, adjusts his chin strap, and walks to the huddle as if nothing happened. But something did happen, and everyone on that field knows it. Steam rises from the showers. Players change into practice gear. Nate opens his locker. Empty. He scans the room. Several players avert their eyes. Zack emerges from around the corner, twirling Nate's cleats on one finger. Nate approaches, hand outstretched. Not demanding. Waiting. Zack tosses the cleats into a toilet stall. Laughter erupts. Nate retrieves them without complaint or hesitation. Returns to his locker, his breathing unchanged. Assistant Coach Daniels watches from his office doorway, frowning, passing drills. Nate runs perfect routes despite his still damp cleats. Zack deliberately bumps him between plays, spits near his feet, whispers insults when coaches aren't looking. Nate's expression remains carved from stone. Coach Daniels pulls Zack aside. Zack nods, feigning respect. The moment Daniels turns away, Zack's smile curdles. Nate eats alone. Methodical bites. Precise portions. The diet of someone who treats his body as equipment. Zack enters with his entourage, spots Nate, and changes course. He slides into the seat across from Nate, smile too wide to be genuine. Nate continues eating, acknowledging Zack with nothing more than a glance. The cafeteria grows quieter. Other students sense the tension. Zack invites Nate to a team party. His tone is friendly, but his eyes are cold. Nate considers, then nods once. Agreement without enthusiasm. Zack returns to his friends, laughing, shows them something on his phone. They erupt in laughter. Music pounds. Bodies press together in dimly lit rooms. Nate enters, dressed simply, observes everything with practiced awareness. Zack spots him, waves him over with exaggerated friendliness, hands Nate a red cup filled to the brim, watches intently as Nate accepts it. Players gather around, poorly concealing their anticipation. Someone's Phone is recording. Nate looks at the drink, looks at the phone, looks at Zack, then takes a long, deliberate sip. Nate lowers the cup. His face reveals nothing. Zack and his teammates stare, expectant, waiting for the prank to take effect. Seconds tick by. The music seems to fade. Nate takes another sip, sets the cup down precisely. Confusion ripples through the group. Someone whispers, "Did they mix it wrong?" Zack's smile falters. Nate stands perfectly still. His posture hasn't changed, but something about him seems different now. More present, more aware. Players shift uncomfortably. The joke isn't landing as expected. Zack's frustration builds visibly. His plan is unraveling. He steps closer to Nate, deliberately invading his space. Their faces inches apart. Zack's expression twisted with wounded pride. Around them, the party continues. Most students oblivious to the confrontation brewing in their midst. A teammate tries to pull Zack back. Zack shrugs him off. Nate hasn't moved, hasn't blinked. His breathing remains steady and controlled. In the background, someone turns the music louder. Bass thumps through the floorboards. Zack bumps Nate's chest with his own. A challenge. A dare. Nate absorbs the impact without moving, his eyes locked on Zack's. A circle forms around them. Phones appear, recording. Zack asks if Nate is scared, his voice carrying forced bravado. For the first time, Nate's expression changes. Not fear, not anger, something colder, something calculated. He speaks softly, but somehow his words cut through the music, reaching everyone in the circle. The simple statement hangs in the air. Zack's friends exchange glances. The temperature in the room seems to drop. For a fleeting moment, uncertainty crosses Zack's face. Then his pride reasserts itself. He laughs, too loud, turns to his audience, seeking validation. Some laugh with him. Others don't. Nate picks up his cup, finishes his drink, and places it carefully on a nearby table. He turns and walks through the crowd, which parts without resistance. Zack calls after him, but the words lack conviction. When Nate reaches the door, he pauses, looks back once. Fog hugs the grass. Players emerge like ghosts through the mist. Zack arrives late. Eyes bloodshot. Pride wounded. Full contact drills today. The sound of collisions echoes across campus. Nate performs flawlessly. Each cut precise, each block technically perfect. Zack watches, seething. His own performance suffers. Dropped passes. Missed assignments. Coach Reeves chews him out. Teammates notice. Defensive backs drill. Receivers run routes over the middle. Nate catches a crossing pattern. Defenseless moment. Zack, playing safety, launches himself, helmet to ribs. Well after the whistle. Players gasp. Coaches shout. Nate hits the ground hard. The ball rolls away. Silence descends. Everyone expects injury, complaint, retaliation. Nate rises slowly, methodically dusts himself off. No wincing, no labored breathing. He should be hurt, but isn't. He retrieves his helmet, puts it back on. For the first time, he stares directly at Zack. Not with anger, but with assessment, measuring, calculating, deciding. Coach Reeves explodes, sends Zack to run laps. Nate returns to the huddle. Players give him extra space now. They've seen enough to question what they thought they knew. Assistant Coach Daniels sits at his computer, reviewing player files. He pulls up Nate's transfer documents, academic record, prior sports history. Scrolls down, reading. His expression changes. Confusion, disbelief, understanding. He picks up his phone, makes a call, speaks in hushed tones. Practice concludes. Players disperse. Zack, still furious, still Embarrassed intercepts Nate near the water station, challenges him to one-on-one Oklahoma drill, just the two of them. Other players gather, sensing spectacle. Coach Daniels emerges from the building, sees what's happening, moves quickly but doesn't intervene. Nate considers Zack's challenge, nods once. Equipment manager sets up the drill. 3. Pads in a narrow alley. Zack straps on his helmet, bouncing on his toes. All aggression and adrenaline. Nate prepares more deliberately, checking his gloves, adjusting his pads. Coach Daniels reaches the sideline. Too late to stop it. The two players face off across the pads. 10 yards of space between them. Nate settles into his stance. Weight perfectly distributed. His posture changes subtly. Lower center of gravity. Hands positioned differently. Coach Daniels recognizes it immediately. His eyes widen. Zack doesn't notice. He's too focused on revenge. The whistle blows. Coach's office. Daniel stares at the computer screen. The browser shows an MMA promotion website, pictures of Nate in fighting stance, headlines about his rising career, 6 professional wins, 4 by submission, 2 by technical knockout, trained under champions. His finger scrolls through fight statistics. Undefeated amateur record. Known for his defensive technique and clinical finishes, Daniels minimizes the window when Coach Reeves enters. They exchange concerned glances. Practice. Field. The team forms a circle around the Oklahoma drill setup. Excited murmurs ripple through the crowd. Zack bounces on his toes, rolling his shoulders. His anger has crystallized into focus. Nate stands motionless at the opposite end, his breathing controlled, eyes alert. A linebacker counts down. 3, 2, 1. The players around them pound their thighs in rhythm. The ground vibrates with anticipation. Zack lowers himself into a football stance. Weight forward, hands ready. To grapple. Nate shifts his posture. Feet shoulder-width apart, weight distributed evenly. Hands open at chest level. Several. Players exchange confused glances. That's not a football stance, the veteran linebacker notices, whispers to a teammate. Recognition dawns on his face. Coach Daniels pushes through the crowd, too late to intervene. The whistle blows. Zack explodes. Forward, channeling days of frustration into raw power. His technique is perfect, low center of gravity, arms ready to wrap and drive. Nate doesn't move forward, doesn't lower his shoulders, doesn't prepare to absorb impact. Instead, he waits, perfectly balanced, eyes tracking every detail of Zack's approach. The team falls silent, sensing something unusual. The linebacker who recognized Nate's stance takes a step forward, then stops. His expression shifts from excitement to concern. Zack closes the distance. 3 yards, 2 yards, 1. Nate's weight shifts almost imperceptibly. His hands rise slightly. Coach Daniels breaks through the front of the crowd just as Zack launches his tackle. His voice cuts through the silence, but too late. Players lean forward expecting the collision. Zack's hands reach for Nate's midsection. The corner of Nate's mouth twitches, not quite a smile. Practice. Field time slows. Zack lunges, arms extended, perfect tackling form. Nate's movement is so slight it's almost invisible. A subtle pivot, weight shifted 6 inches to the left. His hand touches Zack's shoulder, not pushing, redirecting. Zack's momentum carries him into empty space. His eyes widen with confusion. He crashes into the turf, sliding on his shoulder pads. Grass and dirt spray into the air. Stunned silence from the team. Nobody moves. Zack scrambles to his feet, face flushed with humiliation and rage. His jersey, stained green and brown. He circles back, eyes locked on Nate. No strategy now. Pure fury. Nate stands where he was, composed, waiting. Zack charges again, faster, more reckless. This time, Nate moves deliberately, a practiced sidestep. His right foot hooks behind Zack's ankle as he passes. His palm presses against Zack's chest, not striking, controlling. Zack's feet leave the ground, his body suspended horizontally for a heartbeat. He lands flat on his back. The impact forces air from his lungs in a violent gasp. The team erupts in shocked exclamations. Players back away instinctively. Nate stands over Zack, his expression unchanged. No celebration, no taunting, only assessment. Zack wheezes, struggling to breathe. Panic flashes across his face. A teammate steps forward to help. Nate stops him. With a glance, Zack finally draws a ragged breath, coughs violently, rolls to his side. Nate crouches beside him, voice low, meant only for Zack. Zack's eyes dart around wildly, looking for escape, looking for allies. He finds neither. Coach Daniels finally pushes through the last row of players, takes in the scene. Nate rises, faces Daniels, nods once, an acknowledgement between professionals. Zack struggles to his knees, pride demanding he stand, body refusing to cooperate. The team's perception shifts visibly. Respect redirected, power transferred. Nate removes his helmet, runs a hand through sweat-dampened hair. For the first time, he addresses the entire team, his voice steady, controlled. Zack manages to stand, swaying slightly. His dominance evaporated in seconds. His eyes meet Nate's. A lifetime of unchallenged superiority crumbles. Coach Daniels breaks the silence, his tone somehow both warning and admiration. Nate holds Zack's gaze, waiting for his response. Practice. Field Zack's chest rises and falls rapidly, pride wrestling with reality. He looks around at his teammates. The same faces that laughed with him yesterday now watch with newfound caution. His shoulders sag almost, imperceptibly. The fight drains from his stance. He nods. Not surrender. Recognition. Coach Daniels claps once, breaking the spell. Players scatter back to drills. Whispers follow Nate as he walks to the water station. Eyes track his movement. Zack remains at the center of the field, alone for the first time since arriving at Briarwood. Coach Reeves approaches him. No lecture, no sympathy, just a playbook thrust into his hands. Locker, room steam fills the room. Players shower after practice. Nate changes methodically, the same efficiency that marks everything he does. A small group gathers around him, questions asked cautiously, about his fighting background, about his training. He answers simply, no boasting, no elaborate stories. Across the room, Zack sits alone, ice pack on his shoulder, staring at nothing. The quarterback approaches Nate, extends his hand. Welcome, finally offered genuinely. More players join, genuine interest replacing mocking laughter. Coach Daniels watches from his office doorway, checks his clipboard, makes notes. Coach's office, Reeves and Daniels review game, film. Nate features prominently in their discussion. Diagrams on a whiteboard show new plays. Nate's name written beside several positions. Practice field. Next day. The team runs plays with renewed intensity. Nate takes reps with the first string. Zack watches from the sideline, his usual swagger replaced by quiet observation. He notices things now, the precision in Nate's movements, the economy of effort. A freshman receiver drops a pass, braces for ridicule. Instead, Zack approaches, demonstrates proper hand position, offers genuine coaching. The team notices the change, small nods of approval. Nate catches Zack's eye across the field. A moment of understanding passes between them. Not friends, not enemies, competitors. Coach Reeves blows the final whistle. Players gather around him. He announces the starting lineup for Saturday's game. Nate's name called among the first. The team disperses. Zack remains behind, studying the playbook that once seemed beneath his attention. Nate pauses at the field. Entrance. Looks back at Zack, then continues walking. Football stadium. Stands packed with screaming fans. School colors everywhere. The energy electric. Players emerge from the tunnel. Helmets gleaming under stadium lights. Nate jogs onto the field. His calm presence a contrast to the chaos around him. The announcer calls the starting lineup. Nate's name echoes through the stadium. On the sideline, Zack adjusts his helmet. Second string today, a new experience. No anger in his expression. Something else. Focus, determination, growth. Coach Reeves delivers final instructions. Players nod, attentive. The whistle blows. Teams line up for kickoff. Briarwood receives. The returner brings it to the 30-yard line. Offense takes the field. Nate lines up in the backfield, his posture relaxed but alert. The quarterback calls the signals. The center snaps the ball. Defenders surge forward. Offensive linemen hold their ground. Nate releases from the backfield. His route perfect, creating separation without wasted motion. The ball spirals his way. He plucks it from the air without breaking stride. The first defender approaches. Nate doesn't try to overpower him. Instead, the same subtle movement, the same perfect timing. The defender grasps air, stumbles forward. A second defender converges from the opposite side. Nate anticipates. A slight shift of weight. A change in angle too small to detect but too significant to ignore. The defenders collide with each other as Nate slips between them. Open field ahead. Nate accelerates. Not flashy, not showy, pure efficiency and motion. The crowd roars. Teammates, on the sideline, leap to their feet. Zack stands motionless, watching with professional appreciation. Nate crosses the goal line, places the ball carefully on the ground. No celebration dance, no taunting gestures, just a job completed with precision. His teammates swarm him with congratulations. He accepts them quietly. On the sideline, Coach Daniels nods approvingly, makes a note on his clipboard. Zack removes his helmet. A small smile forms at the corner of his mouth. A freshman receiver notices his expression, asks what he's thinking. Zack watches as Nate returns to the sideline, already focused on the next play. His answer is simple. Respect, earned and given. The game continues. The crowd roars. The scoreboard changes. But something else has changed too. Something more important. The numbers.